Hello, everybody. Welcome to Be Free, Be Real. We're just here on this Sunday call to celebrate and honor sobriety for ourselves and for others. If you're sober curious, you're here. Maybe you haven't taken the dive all the way in, but we're just here to share our stories and hopefully provide some inspiration to you. The theme of today for me, what I was thinking about when I made the flyer with the artichoke on it, was how many layers there are to this process of sobriety. And it really, sobriety in a lot of people's minds, it really comes down to what substances you're using. But there's a lot more to it than that because, addiction mindset is really about pleasure seeking and sort of escaping reality and how you deal with your dream space and your dreamscape and how you're connecting to the collective consciousness and when you're pulling into your own mind. And sometimes the differences between the external world and what you might have going on the inside can be so vast that we become kind of disconnected, is what it feels like for me. And so for me on my journey, it's been this process of just peeling away the layers and peeling away the petals to get to the core of authenticity, of what's real, what's real that we can sense. And instead of trying to escape that, really reaching for that and just grasping onto that as, when you find truths and you find basic wisdoms and you find basic practices and ways of being that are in alignment with the universe and with your soul and your spirit, there's just a wellspring of wealth, not necessarily financial wealth that can come along with it, but this wealth of being that you're able to experience. And so I wish that for everybody. And I know everybody else here does too. We're going to go rounds today once again. And the first round is about self-limiting beliefs. And, how do we recognize that programming that we have, when we are reaching for alcohol or we are reaching for certain foods, or maybe we're like a shopaholic or we're a sexaholic or whatever the thing is, um, we're reaching for this thing that is ultimately self-destructive and self-limiting. And what are those beliefs that we hold that guide us into that way of thinking? Because you really have to acknowledge that and recognize that first, as like the first layer. It's almost like the root of the artichoke, that you then get to grow from. And so for me, self-limiting beliefs, I think my biggest self-limiting belief was just not believing in my own intuition and my own inner guidance. And so therefore not even listening to it. Like I think that I had blamed and shamed myself about so many of the choices and decisions that I made and that got me into all these awful scenarios that I didn't trust myself. And when you don't trust in your being, it really hinders you from making good decisions moving forward. And so once I started to get this seed of like, I have it in me. I have it in me to move forward and do what's good for me. And I have inside of me all the components that I need to really embrace what's right and what feels good in my life. And deprogramming that for me is just the recognition, kind of looking around at the world around me, that everyone says, you're a product of your environment, which is only true until you realize that you can also be a product of your healing. So really looking around at my environment and acknowledging people in my life that were destructive, people, places in my life that I was going where things were destructive, material things in my life that were destructive, whatever those things were, alcohol, marijuana, it's kind of here nor there. I definitely have smoked weed throughout my life, and it's helped me get off and away from other more toxic things in my life. And it's a progression in that way. But deprogramming just started with acknowledging it all and looking at it all through a clear lens. And that lens gets clearer the more layers that you peel away, the more clearly you can really see what's going on around you, watching what's happening to your friends that are slamming drinks all day or smoking weed all day, every day, or, doing whatever substance at parties. And you start to watch people's lives fall apart, and you start to watch your own life fall apart. So that acknowledgement for me was the first step in deprogramming my self-limiting beliefs. Tammy, would you like to share about that?
Sure. Thank you for having us, Barbara. So, your environment, like how you were saying, and the belief system. So I was raised believing that you had alcohol to have a good time. It was when families get together, they drink, they smoke, they listen to music, we dance. So it never seemed like I was really doing anything wrong. As a little girl, obviously you don't need those things. And you see adults making decisions that aren't the best when they're under the influence, and you see bad things happen in life when alcohol is involved. And it takes, some realization like, oh, wow, maybe this isn't so good. Maybe we shouldn't be drinking. Like, can we have a good time without alcohol? Can we, be happy if we're not going out and spending a bunch of money shopping or, all those things. So really for me, alcohol was never my go-to. I definitely had a partying phase. Cannabis was always my crutch. And I always thought, oh, it's natural. And I still, I'm a firm believer in, medical marijuana. And cannabis to me is like the safest thing for someone to use, and it does have a lot of, benefits to it. But I definitely abused it. And then I couldn't even leave the house without it. And I was smoking like Snoop Dogg morning and noon and night. And like, that was my thing. And cigarettes came into play with that. And then it was just like, you work hard, you play hard. And then it was like, always just go, 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 work really hard and then play really hard to relax. So there was never really a balance of just an even steady feeling of like how you feel. It was like just a roller coaster of up and down and up and down. So to reverse Crohn's, I had to really stay away from alcohol. So it was like on the weekends when all my friends were going out, it's like, okay, instead of going out and, painting the town, I would stay home and like paint a picture. So I'm like, okay, I just have to find different things to do to occupy my time. And then I had to really start cooking all my food from scratch. So it was like food therapy, I called it. I'm like, all right, so I'm just going to put my time and my energy into something different, something healthier, slow down a little bit. And it was really rewarding. And then I got to a place in my body where I would wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, wow, I feel really good. Like, maybe I don't need that cannabis, because it was never something that I was really trying to give up, honestly. Like, I never would have ever thought I'd be able to go a day or want to go a day without it. And then I just got to this place where it was like, okay, I'm good. I can leave the house without it. I can go to sleep without it. Like, all the reasons I was using it, the anxiety, the depression, the insomnia, the nausea, those things were going away as I started to like clean up my diet. So then I was like, wow. And then once I cleaned up everything, if I did use it, it was like, it had the complete opposite. Then I'd like have the munchies and I'd just eat and fall asleep. So it like completely had the opposite effect of like how it used to like really like just keep me going throughout the day. So
I love the image you had of the roller coaster. And it really gets like that. And part of that, I feel like, is the culture and the society that we have built around like the working class, or just like work in general, is this like hustle mentality of working so hard and hustling so hard, that creates that lack. It creates like you're not eating enough throughout the day, you're not drinking enough water, you're really not taking care of yourself. And then you have this depletion. And from the depletion comes this like hunger, this unsatiated hunger. And I love how you spoke to the way that food became the way that you reprogrammed, that just by kind of taking one crutch away, but replacing that with this other valuable self-care tool, it automatically deprograms you because you realize that you can feel good without that other thing. I love that way of speaking to it. Thank you, Tammy. Dan, I'd love to
First
hear.
off, yeah, thank you so much, Barbara, for hosting this incredible space every Sunday for other people. And yeah, your belief system in on itself is very powerful. Self-talk is very powerful as well in and on itself. You could be your own worst enemy. You can be your own best friend, literally. You're your own cheerleader. Definitely during the beginning few months of my sobriety journey, I was my very own cheerleader, to keep myself going. But definitely self-negative talk is, it's like, why are you here? Get the heck out of my life, right? Like you're not welcome here. Acknowledgement that it's there and you're not welcome here. Your negative, your like own self-negative talk. That's just a lot of like daily practices. I just wanted to rewind on what you began with, is the daily practices, grounding, yoga, meditations, affirmations. All of these are very beneficial to your overall mental health. And yeah, don't ever speak negatively about yourself because that's not going to do you any better. You have to, like I just said, be your own cheerleader, cheer yourself on, give yourself positive, radiant, affirmations rather than this negative self-talk, right? But I can't say that I'm, I am definitely guilty of charge of self-limiting beliefs, my self-negative talk. I'm glad that this was the first thing to be brought to everyone's attention this afternoon, because it's not something that is actually, I guess, expressed a lot more of. We need to bring this more so to the surface that, like I just said, you could be your own worst enemy or your own best friend. So it's literally true. But I would say as a healing method, those four things, like grounding, meditations, affirmations, yoga, stretching, getting a lot of body movement, getting outside, go for a walk, 30 minutes a day, at least of 30 minutes of physical activity. I'm sure you're going to have a brighter day, let's say, after 30 minutes of physical activity. But yeah, just cheer yourself on and be your own best friend.
I love that. It's so true. It's the little things. I remember when I was in high school, my freshman year, I had gotten kicked out of school for smoking weed on school campus. And I went to this art school and they had this like drug therapist that would come and sit with some of us in a circle that were required to do this. And she gave us a sheet of paper and it was a list of natural alternatives. Like, where can you get good pleasure? Like, what is a list of your good pleasures? And it was things like sunlight through the window, petting your cat, those micro pleasures that we can seek throughout the day, grabbing a glass of water, self-massage, there's all these things. And so you can make a list for yourself. And that never left me. And I really took a much deeper dive after that, like further into those things, but that never left me. That, because when she said sunlight, I immediately had this visceral experience of what it feels like when the sunlight hits your skin. It's just one of the best feelings. And, just being in the now with those moments where you're doing something good for yourself. Because it's like, what's that folklore about the two wolves that live inside you, and one is evil and one is like the great good. And whichever one wins is the one that you feed. And that's the first thing that came to mind, especially with our guest, Kimberly Wolf Montoya, on with us. Kimberly, I'm really happy to have you with us today. I know that you have been sober for a good long time and you just recently got a chip. I'd love to hear, what are some of the negative self-talk aspects that you had with yourself early on and how you've just deprogrammed that for yourself too.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here. I rarely talk about sobriety live, I speaker meetings, but yeah, I've got to show you my 23-year chip. It was a really special birthday this year because it was March 23rd of 2023. I had 23 years and I get emotional still to this day because really it's only by the grace of God that I'm sober, because I was one of those blackout drinkers. People don't know the difference between blacking out and passing out. You're wide awake, but you don't remember anything you did or said. And the beliefs that I was raised with this really strong cowboy Marine. I grew up on a 35,000 acre cattle ranch with no brothers. So my dad was rigid, and you told the line and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. And so there was great things that my dad taught me. He was also alcoholic, but there was also things that I had to learn to change my thinking. And I admire any of you that have not had to go to a 12-step or a recovery program, because I knew I had a drinking problem for 10 years. And when I was 29, as we do when we're drinking and drugging, we do something crazy off the wall. So I thought, oh my gosh, if I don't go to a meeting, try these AA meetings, I'm going to lose a relationship. And I had 3 children, and my dad always taught me, if you play, you pay. So I was one of those alcoholics that raised 3 kids by myself, worked, never missed a day of work, didn't get fired somehow, some way. And I finally had to admit complete defeat, because I had tried every which way on my own, in my own power to get sober, and nothing would work. I went from town to town, from state to state. Wherever I went, there I was. I wanted to blame other people. So I carried this huge resentment. And so I actually had to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'll always give them credit. I grew up in a religious background, so I believed in God. But when you give us alcohol and drugs, all bets are off. The morals, the values, and all those things go right out the window. And so by the time I drugged myself into recovery, I thought, I'm going to hell. Why should I quit drinking? And the people saved me. They said, I don't know who your power is, but the power of our understanding that we have found is a loving, forgiving one. So that was like the first time I had hope that I could get sober. I could actually be forgiven, because under the influence, I was a liar, a cheater, a thief, an adulterous wife. I did all those things. And so for me, I was unworthy, but it was about to change my thinking. They're like, people would say, oh, AA's trying to brainwash you. And it's like, my brain needed washing. it really needed some washing, because my thoughts, like your parents would tell you, you look up to your parents and they tell you, do what I say and not what I do. I had to learn that that was a wrong statement. That if I wanted my children to do good, then they had to follow me in their footsteps. So I had to do, like Dan said, positive affirmations. I mean, every day for each year, I would pick an affirmation, and what other people think of me is none of my business. What does the God of my understanding think? I had to train myself. I had to do a fearless and searching moral inventory of my entire life, writing it down, so that I could take a look at what I did. So, I mean, I could go on and on forever, but
I love that though, because when you do the affirmations and you do the work, and my sister is an AA, a huge proponent of AA. She was a DJ, she's still a DJ, but she was really big in the Denver DJ scene for a long time. And she ended up becoming sober and then started a women's circle for other women in the rave scene to be able to come and find their sobriety and stuff. So I feel really fortunate that I had my sister as an example who really paved this road in front of me of what that could look like. And her and I have each taken our dives in and out of sobriety throughout the years. But overall, her work with AA was hugely pivotal for me. I've been to a couple meetings and I certainly went to meetings with her, but she pretty much 12-stepped my ass right as soon as I would come to her, she'd be like, well, do this and do that. But I'm also a journaler. And the work that you do, like you said, to take account, when you think about all the people, how you've affected yourself, but how you've affected all the other people in your life, and you take that inventory and you really, whether you're able to apologize to those people or touch base with them or not, you at least take personal account of what your role was in all those scenarios, because it's that blaming mentality, like you said. And I love holding blame of self as a self-limiting belief, because when you blame yourself and you're blaming all the other people around you, you're wasting all that time that you could be spending finding some solutions and setting some great intentions, and it's that blame mentality that's so real in the world. We're so judgmental. This world is so judgmental of how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to live and what it's supposed to look like. I think people get stuck in that self-blaming and self-loathing. Yeah. And so I love that that's where you can sense part of your deprogramming came from, was identifying all the sources of blame. Yeah. And just eliminating that, because, we are all human and we're all here living the life that's just like passed into our being. Like, you come into this world and it's a fucked up world, but it's also a beautiful world. And so, once you release the blame of how fucked up everything is, you can move into the experience of all the things that are not fucked up and transition that. I love that. Thank you for that share. Mallory, I would love to hear your share.
Yeah, so can you just kind of repeat a little bit the focus of what I'm sharing right now?
Yeah, so the first round is, what are some self-limiting beliefs that you've had, and what work have you done to deprogram that?
Okay, yeah. So, well, I feel like I could talk on, I'll try to do my best to make it brief. I was raised in a town where drinking was very popular. Everyone in my family drank. I thought that it got to a point where I was really only comfortable drinking. I was not comfortable with myself enough. I had kind of taken on a lot of addictive habits that my family taught me, because that's what they knew. And I really didn't know how to be myself because of it, because I was looking for, we used that word pleasure before. I was looking for this like quick kind of pleasures to feel good with myself. And it really took me so far away from my true self, and I was really lost for a really long time. And wondered if I would ever have friends, or like I imagined, I remember one day imagining like having friends and going out and being able to be sober and like hanging out with people and not drinking at all, because it had become such a normal thing. And I was a complete idiot. Like, I was a complete idiot. I had no self-value. I didn't know, and like sometimes I would run into the people that I would hang out with when I was drinking, but I didn't know how to talk to them, or I'd like ask them, or like they'd like invite me to a party, and then like I would hang out with them later. And but I never really had any friends, and it was really sad, and it was really lonely. And um, thankfully, I somehow have been so guided and taken care of in my life and protected. There were a lot of times that my life was at stake. And yeah, so I thankfully, I don't know, my life just kind of started changing when I started letting myself be more curious and opening up to the idea of living a different way, because I was so unhappy. And I would kind of start to see other people around not drinking and they were doing good. And so I feel like with breaking these habits and the beliefs that they kind of started to distill in me of not feeling good enough, or thinking that I wasn't ever going to be able to connect with people or ever be able to make real friends. um it started to change, and I started to create a more curious outlook on life and open up to more and observe myself more. I feel like when we're going to work through blocks and self-limiting beliefs, it's really important to be um what's the word, vulnerable with ourselves, notice what our behavior is like. There are some other things I wanted to, yeah, and negative self-talk is like the worst thing that we can do for ourselves, and having self-pity on ourselves. And I remember at one point I decided, okay, I was like, every time I say something negative, I'll be okay with saying that negative thing, but I'm gonna say something positive too. And eventually it started to kind of like slowly counteract. And yeah, I find though that with working through blocks, the most important thing is approaching things with a very childlike curiosity. And also noticing when I feel, because when I start to go back into old limiting beliefs, um, and start doing like getting back into behavior that connect with those limiting beliefs, I get a feeling in my body that's just like something is wrong. Or like when I just sit there, I'll have this like uneasy feeling of like something is wrong, something is off. Why do I feel like this? And it's that's like a sign for me that like, okay, I need to realize this. I need to decide to do something different. That's another step, deciding or like thinking about doing something different, like thinking about going outside, thinking about going in the sun, thinking about the good thing that's good for you. And then the next step is acting on it and doing it. And that's when things start to change. So that's my experience.
That is the core of the reprogramming. It's that moment. And it's such a small period of time. It's like a microsecond where your brain is finally able to stop and go, why am I making this choice right now? Is this choice good for me? And you got to replace it with like, I totally believe that I can make this good choice, and this is what I'm going to get out of it. And I'm going to go do this right now instead. So building just those tiny minuscule moments in time where you just transition. I literally think of like a computer programmer, like programming in code on the computer, and you just stop, delete, edit. you just like splice it out like slowly over time, and know that it doesn't happen right away. Like there's still going to be moments where you're like, sometimes like, fuck it, I'm just going to go do this anyways. But you can step outside of yourself and go, geez, like, why am I doing that to myself? Why am I doing this? And those moments of recognition, watching yourself in defeat, knowing that you have failed yourself, those are really important moments too. Because the reality is that every addict has those moments of falling back off the horse, if you will, and you got to get really good at those moments. So then acknowledging that those triggered moments, any triggered moment that triggers you into anything, you got to acknowledge that as like an invitation. It's an invitation to learn and to create change and to edit and to splice and to reprogram. And the more you do it, it's like a parrot. If you say that word to the parrot 100 times every day, the parrot's going to learn the word. So like, see your inner parrot and like teach that shit how to talk. I don't know. So I love that. It's so true. And it is like, it's just such a beautiful process. I mean, when you think about people like us that are in this Purium community and how deeply we care about the environment, how deeply we care about the healing of others, bye, Kia. Mwah. Good to have you. We care so deeply for others. And I think that's another aspect of addiction, is caring so much about what other people think and taking that in and not focusing as much about what you think and what's really good for you. So giving that care back to yourself and caring about what you think and caring about how you feel so that you can make those progressions towards your own healing. So the second round is like self-serving mantras. What are the things that you tell yourself? And I remember when I got divorced from my ex-husband and we were drinkers. I mean, we would drink, have people over all the time, and big smokers. And when I got out of the relationship, my mantra was to myself was, I'm doing the right thing. I will heal. I will find peace. And that was the simple, just practice that I started with. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I kept it in my wallet. And in those really hard moments, I would sit there and I would hold that piece of paper. I mean, that thing got like all rubbed out and like crunched up and everything, but that was it. And that came from me, and it was my piece of paper and I wrote it down, and that was my intention. And as long as I just stood and stuck to that intention, I had the knowing that everything would be okay. And a few years later, I was at a gas station in Boulder and I was having a hard moment. I was at a gas station and I had gotten out of the car. I was still smoking a lot of cigarettes at the time. So I was smoking a cigarette. And this random guy walked up to me and he handed me this like rolled up thing. And I opened it up and it was a couple of like prayer flags. And one of them says, the universe has your back. And the other one said, everything will be okay. And it's just total stranger, and just handed it to me and then just walked away. And that flag has been sitting above my sink ever since then. And that's been my replacement for that little piece of paper. And I look at it every single day when I go in the kitchen and I'm making my shakes and taking my aminos and doing my practice in the kitchen, or even when I'm washing dishes or doing whatever. And yeah, those little things you can do for yourself, post little things up. So that was my kind of practice with mantra and intention setting and how to keep yourself going. Tammy, how about you, boo?
Not really sure if I ever had a mantra, but the things that would go through my head, all the thoughts. It's like making those thoughts stop and, you know, like the reprogramming, like you said, so cold therapy was a huge thing for me, the ice baths, you know, really learning how to just sit with myself, sit with my thoughts, sit with, you know, deal with everything. Like if somebody would stress me out, or if I was around somebody that would make me want to drink or smoke, it's like, why am I self-sabotaging myself because you're stressing me out? Like I needed new healthy ways to handle stress, right? So it's like the deep breathing, the breath work was a big thing for me, the cold therapy. And, you know, really just thinking, I guess if I had a mantra, like it was thinking, I'm showing my kids like all the things I was doing that I hated watching when I was a child. Now my kids are watching me do these things. Like, so my big thing was like lead by example. Like if I want to teach my kids how to be able to have fun without alcohol, how to enjoy life, how to handle stress, how to handle road rage, whatever, the idiots out there in the world, like how can I lead by example? I need to, you know, figure my shit out so that I can help my kids not get to that same place. So that was a big thing for me, you know, and just really realizing that I do deserve the best. Like I never really thought I was worthy and deserving of the cleanest food on the planet. Like, oh, McDonald's is fine, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't like that attitude. It doesn't matter. I don't care, whatever. Like, I'm just going to have a cigarette. It doesn't, you know, just all those things, just really, like you said, reprogramming your mind and like realizing you are worthy and deserving. And you have little eyes and ears watching you. And, you know, once you get to that place where you don't need those things to have fun and you can just dance and be smiling all day. And then your kids are like, what are you on? I'm like, I'm just high on life. You know, like Wim Hof says, you know, get high on your own supply. So like, there are ways, like, I always thought those people were crazy back in the day when I was drinking and smoking and I'd hear people say, oh, you just need to breathe. You just need to, I'm like, yeah, right. Like, you know, give me a beer, give me a cigarette.
Uh-huh.
It really works. Just breathing. It's so crazy getting high on your own supply.
It is amazing. It's breathing. I love breathing too. Breathing is definitely its own high. And yeah, it's such a relief, really. I mean, when you realize that you can just naturally give yourself what you need to feel good, it's extremely liberating. It's like empowering and just so necessary. It's so necessary. Everybody deserves to understand that they are capable of doing this, you know? And I think there's a thing too in our culture that we've created around how quote unquote hard it is to get sober. There's like this huge stigma, you know, oh, you're going to have to go to rehab and you're going to have to go to AA and you're going to have to like, and I'm not saying that it's easy, you know, there is a lot of work that you've got to do, but I feel like there's a ways to kind of release that stigma, you know, and focusing on what is possible and how it can be done as opposed to like, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of stigma about AA. I think Kimberly was talking about that a little bit too, like people being like, oh, you're just being brainwashed. And, you know, there's a lot of stigmas around sobriety, period. And so I'm glad that we're coming together because these conversations, like it just takes listening to one conversation like this sometimes to just totally change somebody's life. Dan, I'd love to hear from you about intentions and mantras, like specific things that you feel like have worked with you.
Of course. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on AA and Alcoholic Anonymous meetings. I myself personally never did go to AAs, but having that sense of community, that aspect in which I embrace the Purium community, absolutely. So having that sense of community during your whole sobriety journey is definitely a big piece. And no disrespect whatsoever. I do understand that this is a process and everybody does this very differently. And I myself just fully embraced myself with all of the incredible kind humans and the kind human tribe and the whole Purium community itself. But also, I just wanted to quickly touch on a little bit of my journey, and then I will give my positive affirmations there. So like, I generally was drinking anywhere between like, I would say 8 to 10 beers a night, and then crushing back 2 4s like all the time when I'd have those big weekend benders. I'd be going back to the liquor store if I've already had 12, or I'd be going back for like round 3 and grabbing like 8 more. So like it was definitely a big issue for me, getting blackout drunk and belligerently an asshole and not remembering the next day, like a whole what happened kind of like situation. And it actually was like that. And acknowledgement of realizing that you have a problem is definitely the first step of the process. Yeah, and also I noticed that nicotine was brought up and weed as well. What I did, it's very uncommon. I think Bo Pinto, who is also in the Purium community, shout out to him actually, because he was the first one that I heard. We actually used to mix our tobacco with weed in a bong. So like in a popper bottle, which we call it, it's called a PB, popper bottle. So you get that pop. So literally you rip the end off of a cigarette, stick it in a down stem, and then you would literally pack that in there and then weed on top and then right through into the bong. It hits you in one, you have to hold your breath for literally like 45 seconds and you get a complete head rush. Your head is spinning because you're getting that nic fix while you're getting your dope fix at the exact same time. I do believe it was invented here in Southern Ontario. I don't want to give any kids, bad vibes, but I used to smoke my weed and cigarettes like that. I'd be going through packs of smokes even quicker because I'd be using them for my popper bottle addiction as well. In terms of positive affirmations, I do that on a daily. Tammy brought up breath work, which also is huge. It's one that I forgot. I literally would be going into like either a prayer pose, in through the nose, deep sighs through the mouth. I am love. I am positivity. And I wake up motivated. Those are my 3 big ones. My 4th one, for Bobby Orr, I am Diamond Dan. And that's my mantras right now. Yeah.
Yes, Diamond Dan. I love that. Have you ever read the book called I Am Love?
I have not. Thank you. I'll write that down now.
It's this these 2 really amazing brothers that wrote it. And it's an amazing book of spiritual guidance. And it really talks through some of the problems that we deal with in the world today. And it kind of breaks down like the spiritual elements that are at play and what we can do to be supported, mind, body, and spirit. That it's an amazing, I think there's digital copy version available. I'll also tag you on the One Brothers Instagram page, who I'm friends with on there. Awesome. Oh, I can't remember who was next. I think it was Kimberly. Kimberly, we'd love to hear some of your practices with setting intentions or mantras, or if there's an AA thing that kind of coincides with that, maybe.
Thank you. Yeah, everything kind of coincides, it's whatever, like you guys say, whatever works. Like I said, I had to get it through the program. I had to retrain my thinking, and I had to read a lot of information. I mean, that first year of sobriety, I read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I read the Bible. I read Buddhism, Chicano. I read all this stuff because I wasn't quite sure what my spiritual path was all about. I grew up Catholic and didn't have some real good experiences, but I'm open-minded. That's what the program did teach me, is to be open-minded to all spiritual concepts, not just one. So I have this basket of spiritual tools, and what I did learn was I have a daily reprieve from alcohol, drugs, whatever it is your problem is, contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. I had to really, and this is what the program did for me, I had to really take a look at, like I said, my inventory and see my part in it and what could I have done differently, because usually I placed myself in these crazy positions, and in my head I thought they were going to work out, but I would ignore the red flags and then became a victim to whatever the situation was that happened to me. And I had to take a look at that. Some things we weren't responsible for when we were really young, but I had to really take a look at that. And so I did mantras, and I still do. I'm a pipe holder. You know, I go to the pipe, the native way. I'll go to church, but I know for me that resentment for me is the number one offender for harboring those feelings. I shut myself off from the sunlight of the spirit, which you were talking about, that sunlight of the spirit that I can't love, and I can't be all that I want to be for myself and others if I've got that block of that. So I always thought I wasn't good enough. You know, where I got that was probably childhood. I always felt different. I felt misunderstood. So I had to stop thinking that the world revolved around me and that everybody was after me. And so one of my greatest mantras that I would do is go outside in the sun and put my hands in the air and say, I am, which is two powerful words. I am worthy of everything good and great. And I'm going to be 61 next month, and there's still days that old thinking tries to come back, but I catch it, you know. And what I usually do if I'm in resentment, I ask, you know, to have that resentment removed, because if I wanted to be forgiven for all the crazy, shameful things I did, I better learn to forgive others. And then the second thing is self-pity, like Mallory was talking about. If I get into self-pity, when all else fails, if you look and try to find someone else that is less fortunate and go help them, you no longer have that self-pity. So, you know, keep a attitude of gratitude. I try to do that every day and remember that I am worthy of everything good and great. So thanks for letting me share.
That's beautiful. I'm going to go do that as soon as we get off the call. I'm going to walk outside and try that one out. I wrote it down. And I actually, this morning, when I did my morning meditation, put on a song, and I put it on our flyer when I posted it on Instagram. You can go listen to it. And it's called I Am Worthy. I think I used a different one of her songs because it didn't pull that one up. But that woman whose song I posted, she has a song called I Am Worthy that I was just listening to.
I just got a chill.
Synchronicity. I know. I love it when that stuff happens. Mallory, I know that you have a really solid spiritual practice, and I always feel it when you speak. You're just so grounded and so in tune. I'm looking forward to hearing what you do.
Oh, Barbara, thank you. I get that feedback a lot, and I always know that there are areas that I can improve on as well. And I really just want to acknowledge all of you and like the journey that you've been on, and like Kimberly, your story is just like really powerful to me. The fact that like I think it was you said 23 years you've been sober, and like raising 3 kids and like allowing yourself to forgive yourself for like all of the probably really fucked up stuff that you've done. And I kind of feel like little Bo Peep like next to you, even though I definitely have my fair share of like, not great moments. Um, yeah, and mantras have helped me a lot, one of one of the things that really sticks in my head that really brought a turning point around for me is I got my notebook out one day and I was having all these self doubts about what I could or I couldn't do. And I just started writing I can. I just started writing I can, 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 over and over and over and over and over. And then I was like, okay, I believe that. And then it changed to I will. And I was like, I will, 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 I will. And then I was like, okay, I believe that. And then the next thing that came was I am. And I was just like, I am, I am, I am, I am. And like I am this already. I am, I am. And I am is such a powerful affirmation. And to say I am and then anything after that, like Kimberly was saying, you used that example, I am. I can't remember what you said, but that's probably one of the most powerful mantras that I use. I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am intelligent, I am brilliant, I am abundant, I am bright. I illuminate everyone and everything around me. I am illuminating everything and everyone around me. I'm happy, I am grateful, I am loved. And also gratitude, waking up in the morning and having gratitude first is so important. And that's been something that I've been working on. And because straight up, like there are so many mornings where I wake up and I get on my fucking cell phone and it's terrible, but I've been doing a lot better at it. And sometimes I even just like lay in bed and pretend like I don't have a cell phone or like I don't have the internet, and it feels really good. And it also helps that like the sun wakes me up in the morning in my bed, and I'm so grateful for that because I'll just like lay there and usually like kind of like take half my like most of my clothes off so that I can just get like full sun on my body before I even get up. And yeah, so those are my number ones. And then I do mantras. I love singing mantras. They just like immediately bring my vibration up. There's one, I think it's called the Gayatri mantra. And it's Gobinde, Mukande, Udare, Apare, Hariyang, Kariyang, Nirname, Akame. And the words they mean like deathless, desireless, that's kind of like escaping me right now, but just like the vibration of the words, using the sound of our voice and vibration helps so much. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't even look up to see what the translations are, so I can allow myself to just like really feel the vibration and get away from the intellectual thoughts of it. But yeah, those are some things.
Totally. And I love what you're saying about vibration. I'm a singer, and so I've been singing my whole life, and I've always known that singing feels good, especially when you harmonize with others. My dad was in a bluegrass band growing up, and so he taught me how to harmonize with their like 4 and 5 part harmonies and stuff. And I just always remember that being such a pleasurable experience. And I view it kind of like with dance. Everybody has a voice and everybody has the ability to move their body, but it's another one of those things like breathing that in today's culture and society, we've moved away from as a regular practice. We don't teach it to our children always. I mean, some people like put their kids, in dance classes or whatever, but it's not really practiced as a practice. It's like a skill or it's a talent or it's a thing like that. But I do remember having this one moment where I was doing yoga and I decided that I was going to hum in the different positions and like have my out breath be a hum. And I remember a specific moment where it felt like I was like opening up my neck. and as I was humming. And I realized the power of vibration and how, and it's just like and I think that that's what happens in prayer when people like at church or in a mosque or, whatever environment it is as a spiritual practice, when you say words and you're feeling a vibration that's familiar and repetitive, and it can just be so soothing. So I love it that you said that. And I think that's another one of those small pleasures, it's just another small pleasure to put on your list. I can I can feel the vibration of my voice. I can feel my breath moving through my body. I can taste these foods, like with our Purium products that we eat. I can put this food in my body and learn to feel what that's doing in my body, that energetic release that happens even with that daily practice. And those are another just huge component of how you step away and you peel away these layers and you grow these like new petals of yourself and of your being and of your practice and of your connection to the world around you in such a different way. And it's just really so beautiful. Well, we're at an hour, so I really want to respect everybody's time. I just thank you guys so much for being here. This was a great talk, and we'll do it again for sure. Thank you so much. Is there anybody have any like last things that they'd like to say or anything before we say goodbye? I feel like we're good. I think we're
I just want to say I love you and I'm grateful for this call. And I also just kind of feel like I want to add that Purium and this community has helped so much. This lifestyle, healing my gut, yeah, connecting with all of you. It's been very powerful for me and has ignited a lot of passion in my life. And so if you're watching this or watching the replay, please please reach out to or to Barbara or like do something or act on this. Reach out. Okay, I love you. Okay, bye.
Yeah, that's a good point because I really didn't speak to that. But yeah, we just as another note to tag on to that, we are here together because of a company that we've linked arms with, Purium Superfoods, Beyond Organic. It's live dehydrated superfoods delivered to your doorstep straight from the farm. It's live dehydrated within like 90 minutes of being picked at peak ripeness. And they're learning a lot about how consuming nutrient dense foods can actually help with addiction. There's a treatment center that out in Longmont in Colorado that's treating people's addiction using, and I can send you guys this link if you want to see it, but it specifically lists like aminos, nutrient dense, plant-based things. It's really remarkable. And I believe that there is a component in my experience. These foods have hugely supported my journey. And I feel like there's some people coming in right now. Yes, Mallory with the Purium banner. I love it. So yeah, connect with us because if we're sharing this video with you, that means that we are sharing with you an intention of what sobriety can do in your life and what these foods can do in your life to support your sobriety. And we do it with love and we do it from the heart because we've had complete transformations in our own life and been supported in such a way by this community and by these foods. So reach out to whoever shared this with you. And we're happy to bring you into this amazing community. So I hope everybody has really a beautiful, beautiful Sunday coming into this new week in preparation. And yeah, go get some sunshine and be worthy.